Hey, you're back in the garage with Vic Ferrari. So this video is going to be on how to tune an engine, a Volkswagen motor, from start to finish on the tune-up. If you just built your engine, this will work for that. If you are getting an engine or a car that you just bought and you know nothing about it, this should work for that perfectly too. So let's go ahead and get started, but first I wanted to report on how my snorkel system's doing, and I have not taken the cover off yet, but I will tell you that I have got a little over 2 months with the filters inside the snorkel system, and I've been to Glamis Sand Dunes for a 3-day weekend where we rode literally a couple hundred miles. I've ridden about 1,400 miles on the street, probably another 300 miles in the dirt, and did a trip to Crown King the back way, and then came back down the front way, which was very dusty. So 2 months of doing a lot of riding, plus riding in the farm field where I like to hit the turning brake and drift in the dirt and just cakes us in dust. So lots and lots of dust. So let's check it out and see how that looks. So I already did take the nuts off, just make it a little quicker. So the way this filter system works is I've got the Donaldson top spin sitting up here, clear up above everything, and as it spins the 4 blades around, it shoots out the dirt out that tube or slot, and then down through the tube I get basically HEPA filter air. So I used a RV sewer hose because it has this nice gasket, and then I used the RV sewer connection and sealed it with RTV, or the right stuff is what I like. So I mean, this thing is really dust sealed. So let's get down here for the big reveal and see what we're gonna find. Just pull that off, stick it in the floor, and I'd say that works pretty good. Those look like the day I installed them. You can see a little bit of, maybe a little bit of dirt buildup, oily dirt buildup right there. But I mean, that's beautiful. So those things could probably be on for a year at this rate. So cool. All right. So let's get on with the engine tune-up. So what you can do is you can revert to videos. I'm going to leave the engine off, and I'm going to go ahead and just walk you through the tune-up so that this video is not super long. But first thing you need to do is get your carburetor to where the engine will run. That's all you got to do. By doing that, you want to just take this screw, back it out, bring it back in till it touches this, and then go a quarter of a turn. You need to take these and back them out about 2 turns on your idle jets. Make sure that your carbs are all clean. I mean, you can't tune it unless you have clean stuff. Take your linkage and undo it. I like to take it off of both sides. People say leave it on one side, but I just like to take it off both sides and get the engine tuned, and then I work on the the bar and how it moves those perfectly, because I have the dual carbs. So, but what you have to start with and what you have to understand is that none of this from here up will work unless you have the valves set right. So the tune-up should go from the heads and work its way up. So there's tons of videos out there. You don't need me to show you how to do it today. Just hit a matter of fact, I have videos on this. So go to my valve adjusting video and adjust your valves. You need to get them at 6 thousandths, not 7. You can get 5. Volkswagen originally started at 4, so you should be safe there, but I don't know what's in your engine. But if you go 6, you're going to be fine. Make sure it is 6 on your intake and your exhaust. Because if you get 5 on this one and 7 on this one, this cylinder is going to draw less air than this cylinder. This one feeds this cylinder. This one feeds this cylinder. It is not critical if you're running a single carb in the middle. Then they're both running off the same tube to the carburetor and it's equalizing them. But in this type of situation where you have dual Webers, you have to get this right, okay? If you have this one set at 5, it's gonna open the intake valve longer and further. If you have, actually longer would depend on your cam, but it'll open it more. It'll also open your exhaust valve. If you have it at 5, it's gonna open it more. So you're gonna get better exhaust out, better air in. This side of the carburetor is gonna flow more air than if you had this at 7. It won't be open as long, it won't draw as much air, and therefore your engine's gonna be out of balance. This one's gonna produce more power, even at idle, it's gonna have more power than this one. Once you get those perfectly set, the next thing to move to is just come right up through the head to the spark plug. You need to make sure that you have a nice, new, fresh spark plug. If you're gonna tune your engine, don't use old stuff. Spark plugs aren't that much. Nice, new, fresh spark plug gapped correctly. Again, I don't know what's in your motor. I don't know your altitude. I don't know all those factors. So you need to figure out how hot your spark plug needs to be and what gap it's supposed to be at. There's tons of videos for that. Once you get a nice new fresh plug, you need to make sure you have nice new fresh wires. If you don't, you need to get your ohm meter out, check the resistance and make sure that they're perfect. But every year I just buy everything new, and that way I have no problem for the other, rest of the year. Once you get your new wires, those wires bring you to the cap. Buy a new cap, buy a new rotor, buy new points. I run electronics. I seal my cap with the right stuff because I only plan on taking it off once a year. So I don't mind putting a little silicone around it and squeezing it down and locking it. That keeps the water out. I run this through rivers all the time. I don't have water getting in them. When I did snap the cap on and did not do silicone, I would go through the rivers and destroy my electronic points. And I did that twice before I figured out you gotta seal that cap. And then also make sure that that right there is sealed up. Okay, you can see the RTV likes to collect dirt. So, new points, new rotor, new condenser, new cap. You can look up your points to get the correct gap. I believe it's 16 to 18, but look it up, figure it out. I'm not going to tell you what to do there. Check your coil. I replace my coils about every 2 to 4 years. They're usually good for 20. But they're not that expensive. Once you have your distributor points in, you've got them gapped correctly, which should be 16 to 18. Once you have that done, your cap rotor's new, your wires are new. Start your engine, let it warm up, come over. On your top dead center, I don't ever care where I'm timed at idle. It makes no difference to me. I don't care at all. What I care about is when I rev it to 3,000 RPM, 3,100 RPM, I like to go to about 3,000 or 31. That way I know I'm well into it. I like to time the timing light on 0. I don't trust timing lights that you move. If you got a really nice snap-on or something and you really trust it, that's fine, that's great. I like to leave them on 0. And I like to bring the RPM up to 3,100. And then on my engine, off-roading, it performs super. It has great torque, tons of power, it doesn't stumble. And I set it at 31. Now if you are stumbling, you might need to bring your timing a little bit more advanced. You may need to bring it up 31, 32, 33. A lot of people try to set it around 28, and a lot of the times with the 009 distributors and stuff, that you'll come to a slow down, you'll go around your corner, and then you'll step into the gas even gently and it'll fall on its face and bog. That's usually too low timing. So then if I'm wanting to rip around on the street and I want to race somebody or really get some power out of the motor, I'll bump it up here to 34. That's fine, but if you get hot, you're going to start pinging, pre-detonating. That's why I try to keep mine down there 99% of the time, and I run 91 octane fuel. But time it using the fast RPM of 3,100. Don't ever worry about where it lands here. If you're good here, that's where you're going to be when you're driving it. Setting it to idle, what are you setting your timing for? To sit at a stoplight? I mean, that doesn't make, to me, much sense. I'd rather set the timing where it's going to be when I'm driving. All right? So, let's move back over and continue. Once you've got that, you can finally move to the carburetors. This is where people have a lot of issues. What you're going to want to do is make sure that this is backed all the way out. Then bring it in till it just touches. Don't make it move this, just touch it. Then go a quarter to a half a turn in. On your fuel air mixture screw, you're going to want to take it in until it bottoms out gently. Do not bottom it out hard because you don't want to mess up the needle or the seat down in there. Back these back out 1.5 to 2 turns on both. Now this is a vacuum port for distributors. 99% of the time they're not used anymore, so block it off. This is a big unknown factor for a lot of people. There's just not many videos out there explaining that. Everybody says twist them in all the way and don't touch them ever again. And there's people out there that want to know why. Well, let me explain to you why. This is a air bypass screw. Now let's go back to the valves. Say you get this one at 5 and you set this one at 7. This one is going to open further. It's going to draw more air. This is going to be pulling with your snail, let's say 5. This one you set at 7, the valve's closing early, it is not drawing as much air, so this one is running, let's say, 3. Okay? You take the one running the most and you close it all the way. And then you take this one, you close it all the way, you get your readings, whichever one's reading less, the 3 in this case, you can undo that nut and back this out until this comes up to 5. What it does, it's allowing more air to go past, creates a higher flow, and the reason you want to do that is because it will help balance your engine out at idle. Now, these do so incredibly little during your cruise down the street. They do only air, and they do so little that they almost don't affect your cruise, but they can lean you out. So usually if you have to bring this out to equal those, you'll have to bring this out to get you a little bit more fuel. So at full throttle, this is completely useless. It does nothing because there's so much air coming through here that this makes no difference. So at full throttle, it does nothing. At idle, this and this one will even out your slight differences in your valve settings. And that way, when you're idling, you're not doing this. Blah, 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 blah. It'll hopefully smooth it out smooth. But beyond that, these are really doing nothing. And even on idle, the reason everybody says screw them in all the way and leave them is because even then, it really makes a very, very little difference. But if you want to get your engine absolutely 100% perfectly running smooth, that's going to be the way you do it. You undo the nut, back it out a little bit. But before you do those, you're going to want to try and tune these as best you can. These are your idle mixture, idle air and fuel mixture screw. When you adjust these on the Webers, your 40s, 44s, all that, 48s, if you turn these in till the engine runs rough, it's leaning out, starts running rough, then you back it out to where it just smooths out. That is the way you tune quad-jet carburetors, thermal quad carburetors, Holley carburetors. That is how you tune those on V8s. However, on these Webers, they're so sensitive because they're feeding one cylinder that you will usually be lean if you do that. So you're gonna pop out the exhaust as if you have a plugged idle jet, okay? I have a video on that. Go back and watch that. It includes this whole idle circuit. But the way you tune these is actually get the car running, then get both these set by turning them in till it runs rough, bringing them out until it just smooths out. At that point, you're going to want to change your tactic completely. You're now going to want to screw these, once you get your engine basically running nice, you're going to now want to take these and unscrew them outward until your engine starts to slow down. When it starts to slow down, it's because it's getting rich and it's starting to go into that I'm too rich to run mixture, okay? That's when you want to back it back in until it smooths out and runs nice, but don't go back to the lean side. You want this thing running richer. It will keep your engine cooler. It will increase the life of your heads, your piston rings, everything. If you go in till it starts to pop and run rough and then come out just until it smooths out, you're going to be lean whenever you hit the road. When you're idling, you're going to be on the edge of being lean. When you're cruising, you're going to be lean. And that is going to be destructive for your engine. It's going to ping, it's going to knock, it's going to pit your pistons, it's going to burn up a valve. So you want to take these out until the engine starts to slow down, and then bring them back until you just idle back up. That is how you set those, not the traditional way. Okay? Once you have all that done, your snail should be reading right because you compensated here. You should be running very smooth with these set more rich than lean. You've got everything from the head, the valves, the spark plug, your wires, cap, rotor, points, or electronics, all the way up through the carb. Then after that, you can start getting your linkage to where this carburetor touches at the same exact moment that one touches, and they open at the same moment. And then you want to go full throttle until your stop hits, and make sure that they hit full throttle at the same time. Other than that, I hope that helps you. I hope it gives you an understanding of exactly how to get your engine balanced. You're gonna balance here, and on the front one here. Then you're gonna balance there, and on the back one there, and write them on pieces of paper. Then you're going to want to use those air adjustment screws to get the lower one up to the higher one. And you're going to have to do this back and forth, because as you change it, it will change. So you're going to have to do this for a little while until you get everything the way you really want it. But if you do that, it will run beautiful. So, hit the like, hit the subscribe. This has been Vic Ferrari in the garage, quarantined. And that's all I got to say about that. You get the joke if you watch Forrest Gump. Later.